If you're the kind of person who loves coins, mysteries, and stories that make your heart race a little faster, then sit back, because today we're talking about a coin that could easily be hiding in plain sight in someone's old change jar or tucked into a forgotten drawer. Imagine for a moment that you're digging through a handful of quarters, not really thinking about them, just checking dates out of habit. Then your eyes catch something a little off. At first, you think it's just your imagination playing tricks on you, but then you realize this is no ordinary coin. This is a 1981 quarter dollar with a minting error so rare, so bizarre, that it can command a jaw-dropping price tag at auction. And I'm not talking about a couple $100s or even a couple $1,000s. We're talking about a coin that has been known to sell for as much as $129,000. Yes, that's $129,000 for a single quarter that originally cost just 25 cents. The 1981 Washington quarter on its own might seem like a very common coin. After all, millions of them were minted at Philadelphia and Denver, and they've been in circulation for decades. Most people wouldn't give them a second thought. But here's where it gets interesting. Every so often, in the vast machinery of the United States Mint, something unexpected happens. A tiny slip in the process, a misalignment of the dies, or an unplanned use of a wrong planchet, and suddenly you have a coin that doesn't fit in with the rest. In the case of the 1981 quarter dollar error we're talking about, it's the combination of rarity, condition, and a fascinating mistake that makes collectors lose their minds over it. And the best part? You wouldn't need to be a professional dealer to spot it. Just a little bit of knowledge, a sharp eye, and the patience to look. Let's rewind for a second and talk about what was happening at the Mint in the early 1980s. The Washington quarter design had been in place since 1932, honoring the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. By 1981, the coin's look was familiar to everyone. Washington's profile on the obverse, the heraldic eagle on the reverse, crisp details in the hair, feathers, and lettering. But the Mint was also dealing with high production demands, older machinery that sometimes needed more care than it got, and the constant pressure to keep coins flowing into the economy. It's in environments like this that tiny imperfections can slip through the cracks, and sometimes those imperfections turn into treasures. The specific error for this 1981 quarter dollar is believed to have happened when a wrong planchet was fed into the press. In other words, instead of the correct quarter blank, the machine received a planchet meant for a different coin, often a smaller denomination like a nickel or dime, or even a foreign coin planchet that somehow got mixed in. When that happened, the quarter dies still struck the design, but it came out off-size, off-weight, or with strange blank space around the rim. Sometimes you might see a double strike, where the coin was struck twice in slightly different positions, creating a ghostly second image. Other times, there could be a dramatic off-center strike, leaving part of the design missing entirely. These aren't the tiny hairline errors you need a magnifying glass to see. They're the kind of thing you can spot at a glance, and your heart immediately tells you, this is special. Collectors prize these 1981 error quarters not just for their oddity, but for the sheer improbability of their survival. Think about it, most errors get caught and destroyed before they leave the Mint. The few that escape have to survive decades in circulation without being damaged or worn down to the point of losing their features. And then, out of the millions and millions of regular 1981 quarters, someone has to find it. It's like winning a strange little lottery where the ticket is just your spare change. Now, here's where the story gets even more thrilling. In pristine condition, I'm talking about coins that have been preserved without ever really entering circulation, coins graded by top-tier services like PCGS or NGC at MS66 or higher. A 1981 quarter dollar with the right error can fetch staggering sums. There was one auction in particular that had coin enthusiasts buzzing for weeks. The bidding started modestly, but as soon as serious collectors recognized the rarity and condition, the numbers started climbing fast. First $10, 000, then $50, 000, then six figures. When the gavel finally came down, the winning bid was a breathtaking $129,000. Imagine that moment, holding a single quarter in your hand and realizing it's worth more than most cars, more than some people's annual salaries, more than a luxury vacation home down payment. That $129,000 price tag isn't just about metal and minting. It's about the story, the rarity, and the prestige of owning something almost no one else in the world has. It's about the thrill of the hunt and the pride in knowing you spotted what others missed. It's about a moment in time when a simple 25-cent piece defied its destiny and became a legend. And that's why these stories resonate so deeply with collectors, because they remind us that even in the most ordinary things, extraordinary value can hide. So how do you know if you've stumbled onto a fortune in your pocket change? First, look closely at the date, 1981, of course. Then check for the mint mark. These coins came from both Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver, D mint mark. Either could have errors, but some specialists say certain types show up more often from one mint than the other. Then study the coin's size, weight, and alignment. If the coin feels too light, too heavy, too small, or too large, that's a red flag, or rather, a golden flag for your wallet. Tilt it in the light and check for off-center strikes, doubling in the letters or numbers, missing parts of the design, or an unusually broad rim. Sometimes even the edge of the coin, the reading, can reveal a problem like missing reeds or partial smoothness. If you think you've got something, the next step is to keep it safe. No rubbing, no cleaning, no throwing it back into your change jar. Slip it into a protective holder and get it evaluated by a professional grading service. Yes, there's a cost to that, but when the potential payoff is in the tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's an investment worth making. Stories about coins like the 1981 $quarter error are what keep the numismatic world so vibrant. It's not just about money, it's about connection. Every coin has a history, a path from the mint to your hand, and sometimes that path includes a strange twist that turns the mundane into the miraculous. Somewhere out there, in an old coffee can or at the bottom of a cash register drawer, there could be another one of these treasures waiting to be found. And when it is, maybe it will be your name that coin collectors whisper about, your coin that sets the next auction record, your story that inspires someone else to look just a little more closely at the coins they take for granted. So the next time you get a quarter and change, don't just drop it in your pocket and forget about it. Flip it over in your hand. Look at the date. Study the details. Because if lightning struck once in 1981, it could strike again. And if you're lucky enough to be the one holding that $129,000 prize, well, you'll have more than just a coin. You'll have a piece of history, a collector's dream, and a story worth telling for the rest of your life. Every once in a while, something happens at the United States Mint that turns an ordinary piece of pocket change into something extraordinary. Something so rare, so valuable, that it becomes the stuff of legend in the coin collecting world. Today's story is one of those cases. We're talking about the 1986 $quarter error, a coin that, under the right circumstances, can be worth far more than most people would ever imagine. And I'm not talking about a few $100 or even a couple $1,000s. I'm talking about a coin that has sold for as much as $120,000. That's right, $120,000 for a single quarter you could have easily overlooked in your loose change.at first glance. The 1986 Washington quarter isn't anything unusual. It carries the same design we've all seen for decades. George Washington's profile on the obverse. The bold heraldic eagle on the reverse. Millions rolled off the presses at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, destined to pass from hand to hand in everyday transactions. But in the middle of that routine, mechanical rhythm of minting, something went wrong. And when the mint makes a mistake, the right kind of mistake, collectors start paying attention. The beauty of numismatics is that every error tells a story. Sometimes it's a subtle doubling of letters or numbers, sometimes it's an off-center strike that leaves part of the coin's design hanging off the edge, and sometimes it's something even more dramatic, like striking a quarter design on a planchet meant for a completely different coin. That's what makes this 1986 error so fascinating. It's believed that a small number of quarters from that year were struck on planchets intended for other denominations, like nickels or even foreign coins. The result? Quarters that are lighter or heavier than they should be, slightly smaller or larger in diameter, or with broad, unusual rims that just don't look right to the trained EY.to understand how something like this happens. You have to picture the minting process in action. Huge presses slam dies into blank discs of metal called planchets, applying thousands of pounds of pressure in a fraction of a second. Those planchets are supposed to match the denomination being struck, copper-nickel clad for quarters, copper-nickel over copper for dimes, and so on. But the mint processes massive amounts of coins every day, and sometimes blanks get mixed up. If a dime-sized planchet slips into a quarter press, or if a foreign coin planchet is mistakenly fed into the machine, you end up with a coin that's immediately different. The designs still appear, but they don't quite fit. Lettering can be cut off. The reeded edge might be incomplete. The weight might be off by just enough to raise an eyebrow for anyone who knows what they're holding. What makes the 1986 era quarter so valuable is the combination of rarity, visual appeal, and condition. A normal, circulated 1986 quarter might be worth exactly 25 cents. But a pristine error, one that's been preserved in near-perfect condition for decades, free of scratches, nicks, and wear, can cause a bidding war at auction. And that's exactly what happened with one remarkable specimen. It wasn't just the error itself that turned heads. It was how well it had survived. The surfaces gleamed, the strike was strong, and the error was bold enough to be instantly recognizable. When the bidding began, it quickly became clear that this was no ordinary auction. Numbers climbed fast, $5,000, $20,000, $50,000, until the room was electric with anticipation. And then it happened. The gavel came down at a staggering $120,000. Think about that for a second. A coin that once bought you a gumball or a parking meter minute had just sold for more than the price of a brand new luxury car. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just metal and design. It's history, rarity, and the thrill of owning something that almost no one else on Earth has. Of course, finding one of these treasures isn't as simple as glancing at your pocket change and hoping for the best. You have to know what to look for. If you have a 1986 quarter, check its weight. A standard clad quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. If yours is significantly lighter or heavier, that's a red flag. Look at the edges. Are the reeds complete and uniform, or do they fade out in places? Is the strike perfectly centered, or does the design seem shifted toward one side? Do any letters or numbers look doubled, distorted, or incomplete? Even a slight difference can be enough to indicate an error worth investigating. And here's the most important part. Condition matters. A rare error in poor shape might be worth a nice premium over face value, but a rare error in mint state, especially one graded MS66 or higher by PCGS or NGC, is where you start seeing life-changing numbers. If you suspect you've found something, resist the urge to clean or polish it. That can ruin its value in an instant. Instead, place it in a protective holder and get it evaluated by a professional. The story of the $120,000 1986 quarter error is more than just a tale about money. It's a reminder that history is all around us, often hiding in the smallest, most overlooked places. Somewhere out there, in someone's coin jar or desk drawer, another example might be waiting to be discovered. The person who finds it might not even realize what they have, at least not until they take a closer look and notice something's not quite right. And when that happens, they might be the next one watching an auctioneer's gavel fall in their favor, turning a pocket-sized piece of metal into a life-changing payday. That's why collectors never stop looking. It's why they flip every coin over, study every date, and check every edge. Because the next great discovery could be anywhere, in a bankroll, in a yard sale jar, or even in the change you get at the grocery store. And for the 1986 quarter dollar error, the payoff could be extraordinary. So next time you handle a quarter, pause for a moment. Feel its weight. Look at its date. Study its edges. Because one day, you might just hold a piece of history worth far more than its humble face value suggests. And if you're lucky enough to find that elusive $120,000 prize, you'll have more than just a coin. You'll have a story worth telling for the rest of your life.